What's up, you guys? So today we're going to be doing a tour review on the Hammond Collection Velociraptor Delta, aka arguably one of the worst Hammond Collection Velociraptors released so far. In terms of quality control issues, that is. Mainly for 2024. You see, the Hammond Collection never really had good raptors. The only other, decent Velociraptor they've ever produced was Velociraptor Blue, but even then she still has some flaws. But anyways, let's just take a look at the box before we keep clowning this thing. So, on the box we have the Hammond Collection logo up there, along with the Jurassic Park logo. Along with a rendering of the Velociraptor Delta. They've been adding the renders onto the front of the box lately since 2024. And it has the name Velociraptor Delta, ages 8 and up. The Hammond Collection logo along with the side render and Jurassic World on there. We got the Jurassic World logo again, Hammond Collection along with some nice renders, which is not faithful to the actual figure whatsoever. But anyways, here we have the bio right here. The second biggest of our pack behind Velociraptor Blue, Velociraptor Delta is part of the Raptor squad trained by O'Grady. After the Indominus Rex escapes on Isla Nublar, Velociraptor Delta and her pack pulled into the hunt. But things don't go as Vic Hoskins predicts. See, basically in the film, Delta killed Vic Hoskins, so I'm assuming that's what they're referring to. But, yeah, so on the bottom we got all the other figures. I have these two. I don't have the Pyroraptor yet, because it's not available in my area. And I am not getting Claire Deering by any means. I mean, look at her. You really think I'm going to get that? But anyways, enough looking at the box. Let's take a look at the figure itself. So right off the bat, Delta looks okay from afar. I mean, she definitely doesn't have the best color detail in the world. I mean, those points go to blue, right here. But, yeah, it's got some decent colors. They even actually got a little bit of paint on the tail for once. Although it should have, gone further. But, I mean, who cares? It's a $15 toy, so we're not given perfection here. But, yeah. One pro this thing has right off the bat is that mine's knee joint isn't really cracked like how my Hammond Collection Blue's knee is. But, anyways, let's just take a look, shall we? So, the face is subpar. It just has a off-white jaw with some underbelly paint, and the rest of the head is just green with some black stripes on its face. Now the glass eye, they've actually been painting over them, which that's not how glass eyes work, Mattel. If anything, they're just making transparent eyes with visible pupils on them. Now, I get that it's hard to make glass eyes on a figure this small, but, I mean, Mattel could at least put in some effort. But anyways, I think mine's face paint on this one droops down a little, so, yay, we're already getting into the quality control issues. And you know what, let's talk about the quality control issues before we take a further look at this thing. So, I had actually gotten 3 of these, and this is one of my other ones. And these figures just have terrible quality control. Let's open this real quick and just. So this head was originally on this body, so and that head was originally on this body, so yeah. And if we take a look at the tail here, the material is overlapping the plastic part right here. So that is not good. If the material overlaps, it makes the tail much more difficult to move. So yeah. Overall, this figure is just not good in terms of quality, like, at all. So let's just put this back and send him to prison for the rest of his life. And one more thing I need to point out before I put him away. For some reason, these figures have been getting very... For some reason, the strangest quality control issue, which... I'm going to take him out of the box again because you really can't see it too well. So, basically, these figures have lately been coming with... Well, as far as I know, this shouldn't be happening. Back in the Beyond the Gates video, whenever this thing was released, or announced really, they accidentally posed the neck backwards, which, I don't know how they could have done that. But now I'm starting to think that's a bit literal, because for some reason the neck appears to be painted on in the completely wrong direction. Because as you can see on this figure, the paint should look like this, and the neck should be bulging a little bit out like that. Or in other words, this shape is the bottom of the neck and this is the top. But, whenever you pose the figure in this fashion, it just looks completely unnatural. And that is because they have mispainted the neck. They've actually done this with many of the Deltas, as far as I know. I ordered 3, and 2 of them have the same mispainted neck. Now, I would have originally had just, like, played with this one primarily, except for some reason, I don't know what happened in the molding process, but there's just, like, these weird scratches and cuts on the leg on this figure. So, yeah. This figure is just terrible in terms of quality control. Now, back in my Hammond collection, Velociraptor and Scutosaurus criticizing video, you would know that no one really liked that video, at least as far as the comments are concerned, because everyone is tired of me criticizing these figures. Well, I'm sorry, Mattel's making it impossible for me to not criticize these figures, and if any of those people are watching, I'm sorry, but I'm going to continue being critical on these figures until Mattel actually makes them properly. But anyways, so let's just take a look at the articulation. So we have an opening jaw joint, and they've started spraying the teeth apart this time, which is okay on paper, but the execution can be very poor sometimes. And if we close the mouth, and there. But anyways, the neck can move up and down and rotate a full 360. And the arms can rotate a full 360 and spread from the body. Now the elbows can also move and rotate a full 360, although the elbows on mine are very tight for some reason. I don't know why, and I'm really hoping that this figure doesn't break just by me playing with its elbows. I might heat it up with a hairdryer to loosen them up a little bit. But another complaint I have with this figure is the fact that its hands are molded in a pouncing position, which, again, sounds cool on paper, but, I mean, if you wanted to do that, you could have made the hands articulated. Or, in other words, you could have just had them planted down like how Blue has them. But anyways, this figure reuses the same exact body as a Velociraptor Blue, so it's got a rotating leg, which can kind of rotate a full 360, except it's pretty tight. One of the legs can spread apart on this one can't, for some reason. Same deal with the other figure. The other leg just can't spread for some reason. I don't know why. Anyways, enough of this figure. Let's just focus on the main one. So the knee can also move up and down and rotate a full 360, and so can the ankle. And the tail is on a lovely ball joint, and it has a bendy wire in it, so you can pose it however the hell you want to. Now, Mattel does get points for putting somewhat of an underbelly paint on the tail, although they don't get full points because it doesn't run throughout the entire tail. Which I honestly don't get why they cheap out on the paint. I mean, this figure is $15, and yes, I know they originally retailed for $13, but I mean, if you're selling a small figure like this for $15, the most you can do is the best you can do is just actually add paint to this thing, have paint all over the body, like how the Amber Collection Delta had. But yeah, this figure is just genuinely terrible. I mean, not just in design, but also in quality control. Like, Blue here, I mean, she has her quirks. I mean, I can't even see her pupils anymore. But at least she was made properly. Now, one key factor I like to blame on this figure, and also the paint underneath the figure is just terrible. I mean, I ain't even had this figure for 2 hours, and it's already looking like this. So, yeah, imagine giving it to an 8-year-old, or anyone else, really. Now, I think the biggest key factor here in why these figures have terrible quality control is rushing production, which they've definitely done before. They've definitely rushed the production of some of these figures. Because back in June, whenever the Hammond Collection Giganosaurus was released, that figure had a plentiful amount of quality control issues, and personally, I just like to believe that they rush production on these figures whenever it's time for them to release. And that's also why in my area that they haven't been getting them on the release date. And honestly, they really shouldn't have to be rushing production on these figures. I mean, they need to actually take their time making the figures and having them ready to ship out, and then send them to the distributors. Because if they keep rushing production like this, eventually they just won't have any good figures. So yeah, even if they rush production, which they do sometimes, they really shouldn't be. Also, if you guys really do want this figure for some weird reason, I'd really recommend trying to find it in your local retail shops, because these figures have terrible quality control issues, and although not all of them are immediately detectable, the neck one is easily detectable. So yeah, be sure to go to your local retail stores if you want a Hammond Collection Delta for whatever reason. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video, and goodbye, I guess.